Would you mind introducing yourself to the crowd and telling them about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me? Is it clear and okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Appreciate you guys giving me the kind introduction here. I'm glad to be here, Tyler. And I love the intro music, by the way. I just have to add that there. Yeah, guys, my name is Justin Douillard here. I have been with Delaware Nation Industries for almost 4 years now, next month. I am a technical recruiter and the DoD SkillBridge lead here. As far as military background goes, I did serve an enlistment in the Air Force. I was active duty in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I was a logistics planner there and did not want to go to North Dakota, much like probably everybody, but I really did enjoy my time when I was there.
So Grand Forks, that's typically one where people are like, "Oh no, you're not there." What was the reason? Like, so why did you join the Air Force? What made you decide to raise the right hand?
Yeah, so I joined a little untraditional than most people. A lot of the people joined out of high school knowing what they wanted. I didn't come from a very big military background, so my grandpa was a Vietnam War veteran, but outside of that, I didn't really have any ties to the military, so I didn't know a lot about it coming out of high school. So I went to college and was working and kind of living life, but wasn't super fulfilling and kind of felt like I was in a rut and I was stuck. And so I always tell people I joined for a lot of different reasons. I wanted to get out of my hometown for a bit. Work was okay, but it wasn't wasn't super great for me. I wanted to continue my education. I wanted to get my MBA, and I wanted to get support for that. And then to be frank, I was extremely out of shape and I was getting back in shape and I really liked the aspect of it. And that was a big part of it for me. So I wanted to move, I wanted to try something new, and I kind of wanted to push myself and had wanted to join. So I did at about age 25.
Nice. And then whenever you finished your enlistment, what made you decide like to basically take the uniform off and go back to becoming a civilian as opposed to staying in and reenlisting and all that stuff?
Sure. Yeah, I enjoyed my time, but I got out of it what I thought I wanted to and had some other aspirations. And I do come from a tribal background. So I work for the Delaware Nation now, which is a tribal owned entity. I am a tribal member, being from Oklahoma, of a different tribe. And prior to the Air Force, I did work in that capacity. So when I separated, I saw an opportunity to pursue working back in the tribal space again, which is, as I mentioned, a pretty big thing in Oklahoma and many areas of the country, but specifically Oklahoma.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, all right, so Native American owned federal contractor, but what does that mean to our group here? Like what do you guys specialize in? What is sort of like the main mission, the vision, stuff like that, the culture of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we are a federal contractor. So the bulk of our work are on military and government installations across the U.S. Um, and kicking back to that, we are a little bit different than a lot of other traditional contractors in that we are a Native American tribe, and Native American tribes are continuously held at a small 8A business level. So that does provide us unique opportunities and advantages to bid on specific contracts that major corporations could not bid on. The Boeings, the L3 Harrises, um, the likes of those, the Raytheons. Now I know that they do have small businesses underneath them, but you'll learn in the contracting space that tribal organizations manage an umbrella of companies that are continuously at an 8A status. So we're able to bid competitively on those opportunities. And then B, we're also able to receive direct awards, which makes us a lot more competitive than other companies. So specifically with the Delaware Nation, our tribe is based in a small town. Tyler, you may have heard of it, maybe not, but it's in Anadarko. I can't remember if we covered that or not, but that's where our tribe is headquartered. And the goal and mission at DNI is to win and compete on competitive federal contracts. And the money that we make that is not provided to overhead goes back to our tribe in the form of education, healthcare, economic development, and mostly just tribal empowerment for the members of that tribe.
Man, that's absolutely incredible. And honestly, that was sort of going to lead right into my next question, which is what differentiates DNI from like a Boeing or a Lockheed Martin or something like that? What are some of the like pros and cons? What is things that separate you guys? What makes you different, or maybe even dare I say, better?
Sure. I think at this point in our company growth, we are at the stage where we are doing some pretty big business, but we are still in growth mode. And in the next 5, 10 years is probably going to be completely different than the current 5 years I've been here and the previous 5 years. So we're still really in our early stages of development as a company. We have a recruitment team, just for example, that I'm on. When I got here, I was recruiter number 5 or 6, and now we're at 12, and we're going to be adding probably another one this fall. And every single division is pretty much like that. Um, I would say at DNI, we have a lot more of an intricate or intimate experience with our corporate operations. Um, we've got over 1,600 employees on contracts across the US. But when you call into our HR, our contracts team, our security team, our payroll team, we still know a lot of these people's names because we're at that size and scope. And I personally think that we just provide exceptional customer service on our corporate operations side for our employees on contract. Um, and on the business development side, I would say compared to the conglomerates who do billions of dollars in business, you can still really make a name for yourself here. Not that you can't there, but a lot of times, you know, when you have bigger numbers, like if you work at Amazon, it might be harder to make an impression versus someone like us where we're a little bit smaller, but we're still in that capacity of where we are doing pretty big business. If that makes sense, those are probably some of the pros that I would say.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's actually one of my favorite things about DNI. And like, because it does, it takes that blend of like big government contractor, but still gives you that the ability to grow like growth within the company. I think, like I think I would make the assumption that a lot of folks on this call right now are interested in positions that allow them to grow and advance within the company and things like that. And I'm not saying you can't advance within a company like a Lockheed or a Northrop or whatever, but where you guys have the big federal contracts, but also you're small enough, it's almost like a family. I remember, when I was making my transition out of the military, I interviewed with a lot of different companies. And, some of the smaller companies would be like looking at my resume and looking at me like, why are you applying here? You're overqualified for this position. Why aren't you applying at a bigger company? And I was like, to be honest with you, sir, ma'am, like I just transitioned out of 15 years in the Air Force and where I, a lot of times felt like I was just a number. And I don't want to feel like I'm a number anymore. I want to feel like I can bring real value to the company. So that's really cool to hear that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
by the way, anybody on any of the students on the call, if you guys have any questions throughout this, I meant to say this earlier, but feel free to throw your hand up. As soon as you guys throw your hand up and there's a break, I'll answer, I'll call on you for whatever questions that you have for Justin. But until I see hands, I have a few more as well. So just throw your hand up if you got anything. I'd be happy to zip my lip and let you guys ask. But so what parts of the country do you guys operate out of? Where are the different states, cities, things like that, where you guys have open positions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to kind of confirm before I read this list and let you guys know we do have a large recruitment team. We've got 12 of us. The way that our recruitment team works is we provide continuous and whole support as a team for each other, but we also have our pocket and niche hubs. So what I mean by that, for example, is a big market of mine specifically is the Oklahoma City market. So I will spend 50, 60, 70% of my time recruiting for that area, but I will provide support for other areas at the same time. So when I read some of these areas and locations, if I don't read one, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Or if I don't know a lot about a specific program we have, it's probably because it's going to be another recruiter's main area or hub location, if that makes sense. So we have about 60 plus prime contracts across the US. We do have a few opportunities where we are a subcontractor, but for the most part, DNI typically likes to only be not only, but likes to primarily be a prime on a contract. So some of our bigger locations that we have, and these are not all, but we have about 70 FTEs, which is full-time employees at Langley Air Force Base. We are pretty big at Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio, with probably close to 400 plus employees. We have a pretty large presence, excuse me. We have a pretty large presence in Washington, D.C. with the State Department at probably anywhere between 400 to 600 employees. Uh, we also have a pretty large presence in my area or my scope of work at Tinker Air Force Base with probably anywhere between 100 to 200 plus employees. Um, those are some of our bigger hubs, not all, but some of them. Some of our smaller areas and contracts that we provide support listed. We have Herbert Field in Florida. We're at Warner Robins in Georgia, Hill Air Force Base in Utah. We do provide work and services with the CDC in Atlanta and in some capacities remotely. We do have probably 50 to 100 employees at Fort Liberty, or formerly Fort Bragg. We do provide support at Fort Belvoir with the DCAA. We provide support for the FAA in Oklahoma City. We provide support for the Indian Health Service, which seats out of Las Vegas, but we also have a lot of remote positions on that program. And that is another tribal entity that provides healthcare for Native Americans. We also have a smaller contract that I oversee for the Navy in China Lake, California. We don't have a ton of work in California, but that is one of the fewer programs that we do. And as I mentioned, I named probably 12 contracts there, and we have 60 across the board. So that's just kind of a small glimpse of some of the major areas where we operate.
Man, that's wild. So you guys got jobs all over. Hey, we got a hand up. So Michael Kelly, what's your question?
Justin, thanks for being here. The question I got, of course, I know Delaware's got a huge focus on federal contracts. Um, are there, and if there are, what type of contracts does Delaware have that are not federal, that are maybe more local to bigger companies especially around the areas where Delaware operates?
Are you talking about probably not non-government related?
Yes.
Non-government related contracts, not many, but we do, like, so for example, a program that we have that's based out of Idaho, Texas, and Oklahoma. It is a data operations and call center. It's called Channel Blend. We also have and are branching into the construction industry, and most of the work there we provide is for government contracting support. That's really our bread and butter. Like I said, not that it doesn't exist, but those are probably going to be our smaller two pocket areas. And of course, we consider our corporate operations staff not to be on the government contract side, but more corporate operations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So with how spread all of the workforce is for Delaware, is there a need, because a lot of folks who are on this call, is there a need for even remote tech support for the communications between all of the different entities?
Most of our support that we provide for all entities typically are not remote positions, but I always tell people if it's something you're interested in, at a minimum, getting your resume to one of our recruiters and having it on file to talk about your goals further in depth before we kick it out completely. Because as I mentioned, we are in growth mode, and things in the next 5 years are probably going to look completely different than the 5 years that I provided support in the 5 years prior to that. If that helps answer it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Really good questions, Michael. And Justin, to that point, I'm not sure if you and I have spoke about this, but a lot of these students, some of them are, going through the process of obvious. A lot of them are going through the process of transitioning out of the military. And, some of them are open to relocate, some of them are not. But for the ones that are open to relocate, maybe that takes a month, maybe it takes 6 months. For some of these roles, is there maybe the opportunity to be maybe like remote during SkillBridge and then going on site maybe in 1, 2, 3 months, something like that?
Yeah, there are going to be opportunities for that. And as we grow our SkillBridge program and partner with you all to kind of develop that pipeline, those are the things that we're definitely considering. I will say at DNI across the board, I mean, to kind of reiterate on us having an intimate relationship with our employees, with people like Seven Eagle, with our customers. Tyler's already met our COO, and our COO meets a lot of people, but there's not a lot of times where you're going to meet the chief operations officer within 7 days of Tyler and I's introduction to each other. That's just kind of where we're at in our stage and the personal relationships we like to build and develop. So when I kind of beat on that is we like to develop relationships with people and get to know them and their work ethic and their background, in the instance of if we don't have something at the moment that's not a fit for you, that doesn't mean 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, a new opportunity might arise and present itself. Um, at the moment, for example, our corporate offices primarily are going to be Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but the way we are growing and being present, I would not be shocked if we had another office in another location in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. There's a lot of things that I don't see as a recruiter because I'm so focused on positions I have to fill right now that are being developed in our pipeline for years in advance.
Man, that's awesome. So I know that a lot of the folks in our, a lot of the folks in our academy have submitted applications to some of the bigger contractors. And a lot of times what I hear through the grapevine is I applied and didn't hear anything back. I submitted my resume. I reached out to the SkillBridge coordinator, multitude of different things. And, the long story of it short is didn't hear back. So when it comes to you, Justin, what would be the best option for these folks? I'm sure probably at least 30, 40 people on the call are like probably going through the job board at DNI right now, but what's the best way for, I have my view of it, but what would you say the best way is that they can sort of get a foot in the door, connect with you, to get maybe a better, longer look, knowing that you're a vet, they're a vet, you're familiar and connected with our program.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I love to handle all the SkillBridge stuff, and I love to talk to every recruit every candidate I can as a recruiter. But in my opinion, it's best when you can get multiple eyes on a resume on a program because, as I mentioned, so I provide a lot of support for Washington D.C. I provide a lot of support for Wright-Patterson, and a lot of support for Tinker, probably on a weekly basis. Those three. But if you were to ask me questions about uh, Holbrook Field, Fort Liberty, Fort Belvoir, the FAA. Those are positions that on my team I don't typically work a ton, and so I don't get a lot of exposure to that. So with that said, the best thing I can recommend is first and foremost, if you see a position that you think you would be eligible for, interested in, or closely qualified to, is to just directly apply to the position. Even if that position is not a fit, we have notes and we see that in our resume and it stays in our database. We also tag our resumes with applicable skills. So I'm just going to use an example, but if you are a human resources guy and you apply to a human resources role, we will tag that profile in the future that we have a human resources position if that one's not a fit. But so first and foremost, apply and get your resume in our system. Second piece, if you want to get a little more exposure or have general questions about an opportunity or want someone who has a specific area that may be a better fit versus talking to me, or if I get 35 resumes today, it's going to take me a long time to sift through those. But if I have people helping that out, is to email your resume to our org box, which I can type in the chat or I can tell you all now. It's pretty simple, but it's recruiting@dnigov.com. And I always tell people, which is on some of my notes later for career advice, which we can add now, add later. But the more detailed you can be, the better. Sending blanket information, like you can send, here's my resume, and that's that. Or if you are looking to relocate, you can list that locations you're looking to relocate. You can reference that I talked to Justin. He said we could send our resume here to get in our database. Just painting a picture of kind of your career goals or maybe where you want to be, or another big piece that's easy for us is transition dates. Hey, I'm on SkillBridge now. I'm actually going to be retiring or separating December 1st. So anything you can put in there to kind of help paint a picture of where you're at is always a plus. And then the last thing, which I know Tyler and you guys have been harping this, that's probably a big part of your academy though, is being active on LinkedIn and monitoring positions, connecting with our recruiters, following their job positions. Not only because we would love for everybody to work at DNI, but that's not realistic, right? A lot of you guys are going to go find other opportunities elsewhere, and that's the end goal. But we're connected with other contracting companies. We're connected with other recruiters. We love passing referrals to and fro.
Yep.
whether I've connected with dozens of recruiters where I don't have any work in their location. So I get a resume from somebody that lives in Colorado and really wants to work in Colorado. The first thing I'm going to do is try and connect them with somebody I know that is recruiting for roles in Denver or Colorado Springs, just for example.
Yeah, and then just to add to what Justin said, like Justin and his team have full access to 7eagle.com, our talent network. So if you guys haven't if you haven't completed your profile on there, Justin doesn't they don't have access to it, right? So you want to make sure you got your headshot on there, your resume, make sure your resume is updated and is looking as good as sharp as you possibly can. Your about me section and your basic information, because I know Justin and his team are in there looking through those. So don't be one of the 30% of the people that are in the academy that don't have a profile up and active on there, because that's going to be and then I don't know if I've told you guys this yet, or if anybody has from the Seven Eagle team, but we're about a week away from having our Seven Eagle job board go live, to where when you guys log into your accounts, you'll be able to see all of the jobs, all the hot jobs that Justin and his team are promoting right now, as well as our other partners. So we're like just this close. So that's going to be an even better way for you guys to quick connect. And Justin and his team will be able to fly through those and find them as well. Justin, when it comes to like the resumes and standing out, what are some pointers that you have for these folks? Like things that they can maybe tweak or just add to their resume, or what are some things that they can do to really stand out in your team's eyes?
Yeah, sure. I wrote down some of these things, and I will be transparent in that these are probably things I didn't necessarily always practice and or didn't know until I actually was on the recruitment side. So now that I've been a traditional candidate for civilian work, then I was military. Now I'm a recruiter. A lot of these things I didn't necessarily learn or understand until I was in recruitment. So I don't hold that against people, but I like to give these tips when I can. Um, and then I will add, you all are going to be talking or should be talking to dozens of recruiters, and everybody has different opinions on protocols and processes and resumes. So with mine, I try to be a little more vague uh, with just small little things that can help you go a long way. I don't try to dive in the weeds on your resume has to be in this font or this, this template. I think as long as the resume paints a picture of where you are and what you're wanting to do and is in a clean format, I think that is the bread and butter of taking that as far as you want to go. So Tyler, I'm going to hit on these just bullet points quick if that's okay with you. That's
You have slides, brother. If you have anything that you want to share your screen, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you.
okay. These are just some quick tips that I would recommend as someone transitioning out who's already done it, and then also on the recruitment side, since I see hundreds of resumes a day. I know everybody's heard the phrase "less is more." I'm a big fan of it. Keep resumes clear and concise. I know finally, even the federal government, USA Jobs, finally kicked down from 16-page resumes to it looks like a 2 to 3 page resume format. If you did 25 years of service and you feel that you need to go over 3 or 4 pages, no one's going to kick you down for that as long as it's clear and concise material. We don't need your entire work history. We just need to know maybe what you did, what you're great at, and then what you want to do, especially when you're transitioning out. I know this is repeated probably amongst everybody on LinkedIn. I'm sure Tyler and his team have probably said it 100 times, but it's very, very true. Resumes do need to be tailored to jobs, especially if you are applying for multiple different jobs or multiple different skill sets. And the best way that I can recommend practicing those tips and tricks so you're not spending a ton of time is keeping maybe having one standard style resume and making 3, 4, 5 different working copies of that. And for example, if you were going to apply to a couple different roles in corporate operations, maybe you were considering a human resources role, or maybe you were considering a business development role, just for example. Those are going to be 2 very different roles, but in the same umbrella of corporate operations. You need to have 2 different resumes, and those can be multiple working copies to make it easier on you. Let's see.
I got a quick one, Justin, on that
Mhm.
on that bullet, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And it's more of a me question, but I think it might help folks in the stands as well. But I always teach in foundations, in the foundations week of this program. I always teach that when you're targeting your resume towards a company, and you're making that you're applying to that company with a targeted resume, I always say in that professional summary at the top, I always tell them to incorporate the company, like the name, actually call out the company in that. And I say almost like a thesis statement at the end, say, hey, looking to align my unique skills and experience towards the mission and vision at DNI to deliver incredible work, whatever, take your mission and vision and incorporate that in there. Is that something that you would recommend or think is a good thing when you see that on a resume?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything you can put that shows that you actually looked into this role and applied versus just blindly putting in 100 applications is very good. Let's see. I also see a lot of questions popping up there. Tyler, if you're not opposed to it, I would love to go back and read those and answer them like after
Yeah.
at the same time, kind of go through them. I'm not great at.
No, you're fine. You're fine,
Okay.
brother. And
Let's see. But yeah, for location skill sets, this is big for me, especially from a military folk who have probably maybe grew up in the military, PCSing every 4 years, and clearly are open to relocating throughout the U.S. or the world. Um, be specific or concise on that, and make sure if you put you're willing to relocate anywhere, if you're applying to a job, put that state on there. I always tell people like just a fun, perfect example. If we're hiring for a position and I'm on clearance jobs and I see a resume and it's someone who lives in Tampa Bay, Florida, and I need them in Dayton, Ohio, and they say willing to relocate anywhere. It is rare that I can get people to move from Tampa Bay, Florida to Dayton, Ohio. So if you put on your resume willing to relocate anywhere, make sure that that's true or be specific. The people, the amount of people you call when the job is in Dayton, Ohio, or Grand Forks, North Dakota, the amount of people that are truly willing to take that is pretty far and few between that we found. Um, keep your resume updated. I say this as a recruiter, even after you get your first job after separation and you're happy and things are firing on all cylinders, if you're on clearance jobs, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Indeed, maybe update that quarterly because you never know what opportunity is going to come through. I think the best time traditionally after separation, the best time to get a good opportunity is when you're currently happy and not even looking, because that means you can be more selective and choosy. Um, but if in our industry, a lot of our customers want people in the seat as quick as possible, and so if we're calling multiple people for a role and it takes you a week to update your resume, the opportunity might have passed. So update that thing quarterly and stay active on LinkedIn because there's going to be times where you're not even looking for work and someone's going to call you about a cool job. Um, answer as many questions as you can on your resume. Tell me where you've been, what you've done, your hard skill sets, and then maybe where you want to go. Um, let's see. When talking to human resources, recruiting, HR, we call a lot of people and a lot of people call us. It is not feasible to store everyone's phone number. This is something that we see a lot more and more and more, and no offense, but especially to a more younger generation crowd. Um, if you don't get an answer, please leave a voicemail. That is huge. The amount of people I don't get to call back because I'm filtering through candidates, referrals, reference checks, and then of course we're all getting spam calls 24/7 these days. So if I call you, you call me back and I don't answer right away, leave me a voicemail, let me know your name, and that way we can track that. Um, last piece I have, Tyler, on the general tips. If you are trying to break into a career field that you have not done, and you don't have any true work experience, try your best to get exposure in other avenues, even if they are small avenues, or try to relay to the application or to a specific recruiter or someone in human resources on things you've done or why you want to be there. An easy one for me, for example, is we have, we are very IT heavy, and there's a lot of people coming out of the service who did not come from an IT background, but they know that it's been promising and I think they'd like to do it. So what are you doing on the side outside of your AFSC or your MOS to make sure you're qualified for that? And Some of those easy ones are going to be like LinkedIn Learning, self-studies, or going on and studying and getting your certificate. Um, Maybe you're trying to break into the IT field and you have no experience, but you went and got your A plus or your network plus or your security plus. That can take you a long way.
Awesome. I think we had one from Ethan Kennedy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. Ethan, did you have a question for Justin?
No, sorry. Don't know why sometimes it raises my hand. Sorry.
Just saying hello.
You're good, brother. Who's got some questions for Justin? Man, he's got jobs, great jobs all over the country, probably some right in your backyard. Who's got some questions for Justin? I know he's got one in the chat, but yeah, there you go. Larry, what's up, brother?
Hey Justin, how you doing? Appreciate you there. So I've had someone look at my resume before and everything else, and what can you speak to as the differences to the bullets, right? Because when you're talking about the bullet points and things that everyone's done, being concise about it, it was made mention of accomplishments versus what you actually did or what your responsibilities were.
I would say, and like I said, a lot of the things that I speak on are going to be D&I related in our field. If you're applying to civilian style work or maybe a different company, they may have a different preference. But I think my advice is going to be pretty pretty general, good advice across the board. But if you are applying to a job rec that requires the experience, make sure you have that experience in the resume in some capacity or in an accomplishment format. Like let's say, for example, if you are going to apply to a software developer role and it requires C#, C+, or JavaScript, that needs to be in there and it needs to be tailored towards that. Or if you are shooting for the stars and maybe you think you might be a little underqualified, paint that picture on why you were trying to get into a developer role and maybe your exposure to that software skill set. And that could be in the form of accomplishments or skill sets.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Awesome. John.
Hey, Justin. You kind of
Yes, sir.
covered this a little bit, but I guess I kind of want to get maybe just a little bit more into detail. So you're talking about, one way to kind of like amp up our skills a little bit is, whether it's a network plus or A plus or something like that. We're hearing all the time, like through all the briefers, that like AI and machine learning, like that's a huge deal, right? So from like a recruiting, from an HR perspective, if someone is showing up, to your door in your resume with an Amazon cert, with AI in there, or with machine learning, like how competitive does that make a person in this current environment? Versus if they're not having some of the other skills that job might be asking for.
Sure. I think for the applicable role, it would be make you competitive. I will say, like at the moment, which in 2, 3, or 4 or 5 years, things are probably going to be a lot different. And this conversation will be completely different. But at the moment, D&I does not have a lot of roles that require or seek any type of AI type of experience. We do have a few with the Department of State where they are what we call a program data analyst, and they do use AI. And those folks do have some AI certs, but that's pretty far and few between. I still believe that having some of the other experience and exposure, those traditional certificates like Security Plus, Network Plus, for my network engineers like CCNA, CCNP, I still think those are going to be around for a long time. So I would say if you really like AI and you want to get into that field, continuing to get those certificates or those types of educational classes would be huge, like AWS. But I do think there's still, for the foreseeable future, a traditional need on the traditional IT skill set. I think there's going to be a lot of things that AI will definitely replace or supplement, but human support is always going to be needed, in my opinion, to a fault.
Yeah, I agree.
Like right now, we're doing a lot of, on our recruitment side of things, we're using AI as a tool, but AI will never duplicate or replicate the conversations that I have with candidates, making sure that we're on the same page and talking about benefits, talking about the role, new opportunities, promotions. Even AI there's this conception, and some companies do it, where an ATS system will kick out automatic resumes that don't hit certain thresholds. Well, at D&I, at least, we set those thresholds, and they're pretty basic for most of them. So we see almost every single resume that comes through. Like, you were not typically kicked out and booted because you didn't have something that the ATS system didn't pick up on. And the ones that I'm talking about that are minimums, for example, most of us, I think all of us are probably going to have a secret clearance or higher. Um, a lot of our roles require that secret clearance or higher. So if you are a civilian and don't have a secret, your resume probably will get kicked there. But those are some of the minimums. Otherwise, we see almost every single resume that comes through.
Nope, that makes sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Does anybody else have any questions for Justin? I know there's a couple in the chat if you want to check those ones out, Justin.
Yeah, I was reading the first one that I think is addressed to me from David Muhammad. And then David, if you want to type in here if I don't answer it correctly or not, but let's see. Are you differentiating a recruiter versus a staffing agency? Some say they are interchangeable, while others say recruiters work for the primary company, not the staffing firm. Okay, good question. On the DNI side of things, when you talk to a recruiter at DNI, we are going to be recruiting for only DNI positions. So for our customers. So it's kind of a mixed bag there in that we are staffing these contracts, but everyone that comes to DNI will work for DNI. The only instance that you wouldn't is if we are helping a sub or prime contractor recruit for their team. And we will tell you that from the get-go. Now, you will talk to other recruiters in this field or in the civilian field that will work at a staffing firm that will be servicing dozens and hundreds of companies. And you should know that from the first phone call, but that is not the case with DNI. If you talk to a DNI recruiter, you will be a DNI employee or you will work for a company that is partnered with us, and you will know that from the get-go, and we will not talk about their benefits or their PTO or their pay structure or their promotability. We will kind of give you a warm handoff, if that makes sense.
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Mhm.
One other question in same aspect. So usually when you get calls from the staffing company, the first thing they want to do is ask like what salary range you are in. And if you turn around on them, some of them will say, yeah, this is what it is. Others will be like, well, what did you think? Type. And what is the normal rate that you would say the staffing company takes? Is it like 10% or 20 or less?
Sure. You're talking about like profitability margin, maybe?
Profitability. So you understand they have to have profitability. You are, but if say like a position normally is, $90 an hour and they're offering you 60, right? It's kind of, not that great.
Sure. I'll tell you, as I've said throughout the entire call, I've only recruited for DNI and I love it here. And I think we have some of the best recruiting practices in the country. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm sure you will talk to other recruiters who may do a more adequate job, or they may do a lot less of a job than an experience you might get at DNI. But this is from our side of the house. So on our team, when we are given numbers and salary ranges, they are typically way after the fact that our pricing and our contracts and our business development and proposals team have already priced those. So when we get contracts and roles, we're not necessarily looking to cut margins. We've been given numbers on a role that we won the contract with, and that's what we're going with. And every now and then there is flexibility on those for a various number of reasons. If we're being blunt here and open and honest, which we typically are, for a junior help desk role, there are going to be a lot more copious amounts of people who are qualified for that role versus a senior cloud engineer who lives in a niche small market. So if you came to me and you were a cloud engineer and I was told that on this position we were trying to target someone at 185,000, if you were a little bit over that threshold and the position's been open for 60, 90 days, we are trying to provide an obligation to our customer to fulfill that role. And so we may be willing to bend a little bit on that pay and kind of dip into the red on that, if that makes sense. But from a general standpoint at DNI, the positions that we have that when they come to us for recruitment and they are open, we are given a number or range, and all of the profitability and all of the budgets and proposals have already been worked into us, and that's built in with that. And I don't really necessarily know that number of what the profitability is on that because I'm so far removed from that.
Right. So if you're given a range, are the recruiters like say, okay, we're going to pay 60 to 90, right? The more money you save, is that bonuses for the recruiter, trying to think of what the motivation is for some of these, because I talked to one guy and he got him from 60 to 80 an hour, and that's like, you have to sit there and I have all sorts of justification for it, why they're too low, but sometimes they just say, well, this is it, I topped out, but you don't know whether or not they're telling the truth.
Sure. Is that, if you don't mind me asking, was that like a 1099 role, or was it another federal contractor, or could you?
Is it 1090 or well? So there's W-2 roles where you work for the staffing company, and then some of the ones they can do 1099 or corp to corp.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
And I've started looking at more corp to corp because I can, save more money versus the 1099 if I
Sure.
run it through my LLC.
So when you work with a traditional staffing company, those profitability bonuses and kickers are built in. You are correct on that. D&I does not work on that model. Our contracts are bid out based off of the 3 or 4 different contracts that we have, which is a time and materials contract, a firm fixed price, or I can't think of the other one at the moment. I apologize. But if you work with a traditional staffing firm like that, they do work on profit margins, and a lot of their success in numbers is built on them getting you at a certain rate because they're taking a cut off the difference, and they're billing that customer like that. But
Right.
we have an internal in-house recruiting team, and we do not do that. We're just looking for direct placement. When you work for D&I, your check comes from D&I day one. It does not come from Arrow Staffing Inc. for the first 60, 90 days. When you come with us, you're a full-time employee, full-time benefits. You'll know the pay from day one. So it sounds like to me, you were talking with a traditional staffing company who their margins are different, and when their margins are less, they are able to provide higher profitability and probably a small kicker or a bonus on that.
Perfect.
And we're getting an interesting lesson on recruiting agencies and staffing companies. I appreciate both of you for that. I was doing a little research on Grok while you guys were chatting, and it's actually widely considered unethical to take money out of people's salary when you recruit them. Typically, the average fee in America, recruiting fee, is going to be, and this is not Justin. This is like 1099 agency recruiters is 15 to 30% of the first year salary, but they're not getting that money. That's the fee they're getting paid. It's not coming out of the person's salary. But I just thought it was funny that Grok said veterans transitioning through Seven Eagle Academy can confidently apply to D&I without worrying about salary deductions or hiring costs. I thought that was pretty funny that Grok said that.
Yeah, the way we work is, like I said, we have typically an internal goal to seat someone in less than 30 days for our customer. That's not always super realistic, but we try to hold ourselves to that standard, and that's why we keep things in house. I get contacted probably weekly. Lance probably gets contacted weekly, daily about opportunities from other companies that want to help us recruit, and that's what they do. They charge. They'll do flat rate fees. It'll be like, hey, if I can find you a senior network engineer in Dayton, Ohio, it's $5,000, or it'll be 10% of his pay for 6 months. And that's what a lot of civilian companies, staffing companies do. And it's kind of like buying a house. When you're purchasing the house, or you were the candidate, you don't pay $1, so you don't care. Now, when you go to sell the house, or when you are the company providing it, that could be huge. And a lot of those companies will only make money when that role is filled. So they'll put in 30, 60, 90 days of work, and they finally find a senior network engineer. So their cut is going to be based off of a lot of time and labor that they paid their current staff. And that's a huge rabbit hole that we obviously went down, but that's part of it. Tyler, if outside of that, if anybody wants to talk about like traditional pay conversations, we could definitely do that. Or if you guys want to pivot elsewhere, but
yeah, I'm open to whatever. We got about 14 more minutes, so anything that you want to talk about, we're pretty much wide open. I will say really quick, pretty cool little nugget of information is I'm actually going to meet Justin's. I don't know if he's your direct boss, but I'm going to be meeting the COO of D&I this evening. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That, like Justin said, like very rare that you meet the COO of a company within a few days of working with them or partnering with them or anything like that, but just shows the testament to sort of the close-knit, even though they're a big company, the close-knit family operation that they're running there, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, Lance met our first ever SkillBridge folks that we had last December. That one was also convenient because it was in our neck of the woods, Oklahoma City. But he had talked to him on the phone before that. He was at Holloman Air Force Base before he moved back to Oklahoma. Tyler, he was like you, spouse was from here, and they wanted to come back. And then got to meet him in person. And yeah, those things that, at this point in our life and stage, we get to do in 5-10 years, we may have someone else that works underneath him, and we may not get as much exposure. But right now, the relationships are very personal, and we try to keep that as best we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did anybody else have any questions for Justin, whether it be about DNI or transitioning out of the military into a federal contractor position, or recruiting or talent acquisition, or any of that stuff? Throw your hand up. We'll get those questions answered. Otherwise, we'll let Justin have some of his time back at the end of this day. So I want you guys to know that as no hands go up, and even some of you have your cameras up, I want you guys to know that a lot of the jobs that you're applying for, the things that you're trying to do, these are the types of people. Like Justin is the type of person that's like slammed with resumes and things like that all day, every day. And sometimes if you apply to a position and you don't hear back, I'm not saying that will happen with Justin, but the people that are on the other end of that interaction, the ones that aren't responding to you, the ones that you're not getting an email back or you're not getting an interview, this is your chance on Seven Eagle Academy Connections to actually have a face-to-face interaction, make that first impression. So don't be shy. If you have any questions at all, just come off mute and ask him, man. Justin's given an hour of his time today. Let's make it worthwhile. Let's engage, let's interact like David Muhammad is. What's up, David?
Shoot, you made me forget my question. But I do have a different one other than the one I was thinking of. I'll remember that in a moment. But have you noticed a lot of the recruiting firms, what they do is they hire a bunch of Indians to do all the preliminary work, like getting people's price point and their a resume and everything, and then submit it to a US guy who will then eventually call you. Seems like I get a lot of that, and it just kind of seems like odd. Like it's like a one-man staffing agency, and he doesn't call you until it gets through the recruit, the low end guy, then to his boss, and then to the US guy. So and now I've finally remembered, when you're putting somebody up as a candidate, what type of, you give them some type of like review before they do the interview, right? Kind of like a prep. And
Yeah.
if so, what type of stuff are you going through, a full thing, or are you just saying, hey, this is the person that's going to interview you, go do some research on him, and here are some general questions they may ask?
Yeah, good question. As far as the outsourcing of the services, it's hard for me to say because I've only recruited for DNI for 4 years and I don't know other practices. I will say the things you're telling me are probably not uncommon. And in my opinion, there is a lot of staffing firms who don't do things appropriately, or you kind of get the runaround, or you're kind of lost in the sauce and not real sure who you're going to work for, who you're going to talk to. But those are not things that I've experienced at DNI. And I think a lot of good federal contractors don't practice those, but obviously there are going to be some bad apples there. And as you guys know, more than ever, spam and bots and all that have unfortunately kicked into LinkedIn too. So you kind of got to filter through that junk as well. But the second piece of the question, when we interview prep somebody, really, we provide you with as much information as we possibly can. I always tell people, my famous statement is, I am not smart enough to be in IT, so I hired the smart people. So I'll tell you what I know. I can speak to it well, but I always encourage you to save good in-depth technical questions for the technical interview. But outside of that, when you talk to someone at DNI specifically, when you go to interview, you should already know you should know the salary expectations. You should have a good beat on the benefits. the location, if it's a hybrid or if it's remote or if it's on site, upward mobility, how long the contract is, and then of course the team environment to the best of our ability. Hey, you're going to work at Tinker Air Force Base on our enterprise contract. There's 25 of those guys. This is where most of them, guys or girls, this is where most of them are going to be in their career. This is the program manager. So ultimately, from a DNI side of the house, I always tell people, and this is true, I only succeed when I place people in a job position, because until I close a position out and it's filled, that just adds more to my plate. So it doesn't really benefit me to keep any trade secrets, or it doesn't really benefit me to withhold information or try to blind send them. We also don't send blind resumes or dozens of resumes to a hiring manager. So our hiring managers are extremely busy. So for a position, and this does make it competitive at times, if we have a position listed, we will not send 6, 7, 8, 9 people to interview unless we have to. We really try to hone in on 2 to 3 people and build that relationship. That way we know they're qualified, they're interested, we can adequately pay them, and they're going to be happy at work. And so both parties should have a pretty good idea of all the expectations going into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Good question, because that, I mean, like, that's important. Like, who to ask which questions to is important in this process as well. Too. That's a really good point. Don't ask the technical questions to the person screening you. Just like when you actually get with the technical person, that's when you want to ask those. Cody, I think Cody knows you, Justin. That's what he's going to ask.
Let's see.
Well, I was curious. You look familiar, so I was wondering where you've been stationed at.
It was just Grand Forks, man.
Grand Forks?
Yep, just Grand Forks Air Force Base. I'm from a small town in Oklahoma, and then I've lived in Colorado Springs, Grand Forks. Now I live in Tulsa. And
So I did an inspection of I was a QA for a little bit, so I did an inspection out there back in 2010.
Okay, so yeah, no, see, I was there 2017.
Oh man, yeah, you would have been there. Dude, you look familiar. It's killing me.
Man, well, shoot me a connection, and I'll try and match the pieces together. Maybe it's a mutual friend or LinkedIn or something, or YouTube. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll shoot you a connection.
Yeah, man, I'd love to figure it out.
Yeah.
Speaking of LinkedIn, what is the importance of posting content when people are looking for jobs? So do the recruiters go and see, is this person active? Is this person, because I know sometimes they do like look at the social media part, right? To see, is this guy a hoodlum or something? But do they look and see if you're actively engaging in the community?
Yeah, I think there are other people on LinkedIn who would go more so and say you need to be adding connections daily, you need to be commenting, you need to be sharing your personal thoughts and opinions. And from my perspective on the recruitment side of deals, I think if you have a clear and clean profile with I would treat it like a combination of social media and a resume. So I would have your job duties, your description. If you really are open to work and looking, I would put open to work. I would put your job titles. These are probably things that Tyler and the team have told you 100 times over. But the more you engage, the more people are going to see you and connect with you. But I would connect with people, like-minded people that are in your field, or people that you want to be in the field with. I would add or follow as many recruiters and HR professionals as you can, because as I mentioned, the algorithm on LinkedIn works in that if I like a post from someone else, it should pop up on your feed and you're going to see that opportunity. So I would say good picture, tell me what you do, keep your job titles updated, and that's probably will get you enough to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. I know with the algorithm, if you repost something, you should repost with comments, because if you just repost it, doesn't really count in the algorithm from everything I've read.
Sure. I think the more engagement you have on, the better, but I also don't think that there's any obligation, if you're not a big social media guy, that you have to be constantly commenting and liking and sharing just because. But If I go to your profile, I'd like to know what your career field is, a good picture of you, your location, or maybe where you'd want to be, and that kind of paints a picture for me. So,
Perla, what's your question? Sorry, I caught you right as you were taking a sip.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for the information. I have a question in regards to LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is tailored to HR, but let's say I find a position in DNI for something else like IT. Does that affect me, like my LinkedIn profile being tailored to HR?
not necessarily, no. I will say though, if you are looking and applying to roles both in HR and IT, that might be tough because that kind of shows me like those are two very different things. And so it wouldn't necessarily be a deterrent if you were qualified, but it could be kind of confusing in that if you applied to an IT role and then I see your resume or your profile and it's all human resources related, I might be a little conflicted or confused. You know, do you want to work as a network engineer or do you want to be in HR? Because those are typically, or those are two very different things. And so that could be kind of conflicting if that makes sense. But I would never look at your profile and just say, oh, it says HR, I'm kicking it out. It would just be more so of, well, those are so far apart that I may not know which route you want to go because for the most part, people in HR and IT are just two very different things, if that makes sense.
Yes, IT was just an example, but I just mean in general, like a different job title.
Yeah, no, not at all. Because I know that LinkedIn only gives you, 4 or 5 job titles that you can list. And job titles change so much and they're so unique and different, especially in the government contracting world. So no, I would not say that that would be a huge deterrent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Olivia.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin, for your presentation today. I just had a quick question because you mentioned secret security clearances and how that was, important for you delegating your roles out in your time. How are people advertising that? Is that just something where it's like, I know I have a secret security clearance, but like as far as documentation or verifying that, how are people advertising that in a way that's attractive to you as a recruiter?
First and foremost on the resume. Now, if
Okay.
you're going to be applying to civilian style roles, like I'm just throwing a random business out the wall, but if you want to work at Walmart or Walgreens or Best Buy, like if that's your goal, target market retail, like you could probably take that off, right? But if you're going to be in the government space or you want to work on a military base, or you can leverage that, absolutely put it in your summary. Or yeah, not skill set, but summary or certifications area, kind of that top range. And then being on those profiles that support clearances. So if you're in the market for DNI, I am on clearance jobs probably every hour of every day. So being on there, and then also verifying that your clearance is active when you talk to people. Like our FSO can check that for you and making sure that that's active. Sometimes those do lapse. Or sometimes like if you have a top secret and you didn't use it for 18 months, it might have rolled off to a secret level. If you're applying for positions that require it, 9 times out of 10 from the government, it's going to be a make or break. If it's not active, then we can't move on. But for those who may not have a clearance, or it's rolled off, or you have a spouse who is interested, we do have the ability to sponsor clearances for specific positions at times.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I've heard mixed reviews on putting your clearance on your LinkedIn. I've heard that you're not technically supposed to because it's government information. People do, and I look for people with clearances on there all day and every day. So
Once you're a civilian, they can't tell you what you can and can't do on there.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's oftentimes where I'm looking for somebody with a top secret on LinkedIn, and if your profile doesn't have it on there, I may not see it and I may miss it. So
yeah, I'm actually going to take the opportunity just so you guys know, I'm going to share this really quick with you all. It shows up on your 7 Eagle Connect profiles as well too, and all of our employer partners have access to this. So when you come on here, you can see the security clearance right there. As far as verifying it, that's gonna be a different thing, but it's gonna be pretty obvious if you. By the way, can you see my screen? Yeah, it's gonna be pretty obvious if you apply to a company like DNI and say that you have a top secret clearance. But if you don't, they're gonna find that out pretty quickly whenever they go to read you into their program, whatever that might be. It's gonna be obvious that your clearance isn't there. So just be honest. It'll get found out in the long run. So
Yeah, we will check that long before you interview, just because of that instance right there. We've had contingent offers go out and the clearance wasn't active, and then it fell apart and wasn't good. So
awesome. Hey, we're actually 2 minutes over. So if nobody else has any questions for Justin, I really, really appreciate the time today, Justin. It's been awesome. I'm so thankful for the partnership with you all at DNI and providing all the pathways that you guys do to our transitioning service members. I was just looking on your careers page and it just goes on and on and on. So there's obviously a multitude of incredible positions there that you guys have. So I'll just charge the audience, connect with Justin on LinkedIn, go check out their careers page if you haven't already. Obviously, they've got incredible culture there. Every time I talk to Justin, he's got a smile on his face. Really good people to work with. And also knock out your end-of-day accountability forms. Let us know if you want to be connected with Justin after the event. What that allows us to do is I can send him a clean, organized list. He can go on our site, 7Eagle, and actually find your profile on there, which already has your resume conveniently enough. And he can reach out to you directly for any of those hot positions that he's looking to fill. Justin, were you wanting to talk about those San Antonio ones at all, or is it too early to mention those?
no, we definitely can. I was going to put, again, the recruiting org box in there. That way everybody can send it. I would encourage everyone to send your resume, and you could just simply say, if it's not on your resume on locations and jobs, you could just say, hey, I just spoke with Justin on the 7Eagle Academy Day, and I wanted to put my resume in the database. Or you could directly go to apply to a role that you think that you were qualified for and applicable for. So
awesome. Yeah, and then John Fields just said San Antonio ? So
yeah.
I don't even know if those jobs are posted yet. So that's what I thought would maybe be cool to share with the team.
Yeah, one thing, as I think I've beaten this into the ground, but it's true, with positions and company culture and stuff at DNI, you are going to get a very direct and open and honest conversation with our recruitment team. We don't try to gatekeep anything. We try to build relationships. So, for example, with those positions, those are on a current contract in San Antonio that we have, that we are just waiting basically the click of a button. They've been funded, but they're not ready to fulfill yet. Like everything in the government, they'll give you a date and then they'll bump it back 30 days, or they'll bump it forward and say, oh, we need these filled now. So we have 2 network engineer positions and 2 what they call a mobility administrator role, and they are going to be in San Antonio. And those should be officially awarded, I would probably say within the next 30 days. But that is an extension of a contract that we currently have.
Man, that's awesome.
Just brand new positions that they need. So
that's incredible. Did someone else have a question? Was that you, Robert, or somebody that had a question?
I raised my hand to ask if they were the same positions I saw already, or if they were new ones. But yeah, they're the same ones that I looked up on online.
Yeah, and if you haven't gotten any response on that, which likely hasn't, is because we are just awaiting the government to give us basically paperwork on those. We don't really post positions that are not ready to roll, but at the same time, we can't send contingent offers out until the government gets us our paperwork and the award has been fully funded. So
awesome. This is super freaking awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'll let you jump, Justin.